The views and comments expressed on the following radio program by its hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of rmconair.com or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
I see what you're doing, I see what you go through. Put my lighter in the air, the truth is you're beautiful, 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 beautiful. I put your lighter in the air.
What's up? Good evening and welcome to Just Sports with Sonny Wells. Man, it's been an interesting week for me. Man, we went to the big dance last Saturday. This, I don't even know how to describe this. We fell asleep at the wheel. Halftime, we're up 28 points. Gary Gaspar's old team.
Hey, Coach, it was the Crenshaw crew that got him, Coach.
Hey, Willie, how you doing? We're going to get you in here in a second. Man, I don't know what happened. We fell asleep at the wheel. We just didn't take care of the things we needed to take care of. We lost in double overtime by 5. Now, I must tell you, the other team, they had been there, I believe, twice before and hadn't won. So their will to win was much more important to them than it was to us. And we got to clowning and celebrating and not really being focused. And I've seen this before in the Joe Weekly Run Shoot and Dunk League where teams have come back on a number of occasions and won the ball game, because the other team was not focused and didn't do the things they needed to do to keep the other team down. And they never gave up. They just never gave up. They launched some threes, man. It was 4 threes in a row after stealing the ball on the inbounds 3 times in a row. And after the third steal, I'm like, you better call timeout. He acting like, oh, it's okay, we're still up. Man, that momentum swung and we couldn't get it back. We had opportunities to be able to clinch the game at the free throw line and missed those as well. But hey,
But just to fill you in too, Coach, they got a whip. They got a whip. They got actually Jermaine Middleton's younger brother, Buddha's on their team. He's like, what, 6'9" now?
6'10", 6'11", somewhere in there.
And then you got an African kid that's like 6'10".
Chimezi Mitu.
He's going to USC?
Yes,
they got a whip, Coach. They got a whip. And I had to tell you, it was a shocker in this city. It was a shocker.
Big shocker. Just, oh, my God. But anyway, I'm sure you guys never experienced anything like that, especially being able to. And, Willie, I've been trying to get these people to understand what you guys did and how the legacy was brought about, and the way you guys did it by taking those guys, putting them, all of the basketball players, into the Joe Weekly Run Shoot and Dunk. Those who were strong enough to play down there, and then come back and have them play against their peers and just smash them. And it had been proven for all the years that you guys were just romping over people. And I tried to get my coach. I was like, look, man, I want to put the guys in this league up in Hollywood. I'll pay for it. And let us stay together and play against some men. And so we went up there for one game. And they looked at me and they said, hey, Sonny, what are you doing, man? These are little boys. These are men down here. I said, I know. But we had been taking them up to Trade Tech to my brother's gym and getting them ready. So we beat them our first game there. And do you know our head coach didn't want to bring these guys back so they could get acclimated to that level of play? It was so hurtful for me because I know it worked. I'm copying. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm copying something that I've seen work for many years. But anyway, look, we're really glad to have you on here. My co-host, DeJuan Scott, is going to take it from here, and you guys can chop it up. Thank you so much for coming on, too, Coach.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Coach. I mean, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good, for an old guy.
Tell him, Willie, tell him.
How's the family? Christina, she sounds smart as a whip every time she answers that phone.
Oh, Christina is 9 years old, be 10 next month. And I think she's about 22 right now.
Oh, wow. I know the feeling. I got to tell you, it seems like your name comes up every week. You know, we've had Robert Smith on the show. Gary Gaspar has been in studio and Skyped in. I mean, I can't count the number of Shaw Dogs that have, that have been here, or we bring up, something that we've all learned from you. And and for those that don't know, this is the winningest coach in California's history when it comes to state championships. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you won 8 and never lost 1.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, and your the list of players that have played for you. I'm just gonna read off some names, and let me see. The guys that have moved on and went to college, like Alfonso Brigham, Harold Toomer, Chris Davis, Armand Thomas, Marcus Williams, Maynard Brown, Stanley Brundy, Napoleon Gaither, Tremaine Folks, Jonathan Stokes, Cornelius Banks, Stanford Hamlin, Brent Henson, Cornelius Holden, John Williams, Thomas Hobson, Michael Johnson, Big Mike, Robert Smith, Darwin Cook, the one you said would never let you lose, Coach. David Carter, E.J. Harris, Alster Foe, Tommy Johnson, Lewis Gray, Terry Cannon, Brendan Hawkins, Melvin Otterberry, Stevie Thompson, Scott English, Quentin Gates, Kevin Hamilton, Marcus Johnson, Chris Johnson, Gary Melanson, Reggie Mims, Wayne Davis, Kevin Bradley, Dion Brown, Ron Caldwell, Curtis Stokes, Renard Murray. I remember when I was a freshman, half of those guys was like grown men. I never felt so much like a kid. We got your picture up here, Coach. It's a good-looking picture, here at Crenshaw back in the day, arms folded, and the gym is now named after you, the Willie West Pavilion.
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us, you've got such a legacy. What are some of the things you recall, that just stands out over your career?
Well, the first thing is, my first year, I didn't know I was going to be the head coach at Crenshaw on the varsity level. And I had players who, I was on my way down to the gym to school to watch football practice, and as I had nothing to do. And the kids met me at the gate saying that you were going to be the varsity basketball coach. And we basically had an argument that I was going to be the coach and I was saying I wasn't, because I hadn't been asked or I hadn't been told that I was going to be the coach. And so until I got to the gym, and then there was an adult there, I don't remember who said that Coach had decided to go to the college level and that I was going to be the coach. And that caught me off guard. And I didn't have a whole lot of experience other than, I had a couple of things that I had done and we had won with it.
John Muir, right? Correct?
John Muir. I came from John Muir, and I used to pass Crenshaw every day before it was built. And, they did the groundwork. They'd moved some homes out. And I used to say on 8th Avenue as I passed by, and I said, I'm going to teach at that school one day.
Wow.
And I was at John Muir for 4 years. And then there was a young lady who was in P department there, and she told me one day after school, and she said, you need to move to high school. You got too much to offer these kids than to stay in junior high. And she ran track for Tennessee State, by the way. And in fact, she brought the girls track into L.A. and made it from its inception to what it is today. But she told me, she said, you're too good to be here. Not that these kids don't need you, but, I think your skills and teaching should be at high school. And that's when I applied for Crenshaw. Actually, I applied for L.A. High, as well. As I lived near LA High at that time. And I said, well, that's just around the corner. I can go there. But then they hired a good friend of mine from Cal State LA, and we both went there. And then I applied for Crenshaw, and then the young lady that told me, she said, have you heard from them? I guess it's been about 2 weeks, and I said no. She said, you need to go up there. And I was a little hesitant about doing that. And then I went up, and sure enough, the principal, my application, my resume was there, but it was underneath a whole lot of other papers. and he looked through the stack, and he said, oh yeah, here it is. But then he didn't say come back tomorrow or anything. He sat down and we talked, and then there were some other coaches there who had already been hired, and when I left, I understand that he went down to the P department, and there was only one or two that really knew me, and they say that they put in the word for me. And then I was brought over from John Muir as the BNC basketball coach and the JV baseball coach.
Wow.
And that's how I got to be at Crenshaw. Well, if you don't mind me breaking in, Willie, I always wanted to know, how did you and Joe hook up?
Joe Weekly.
After I had won championship my first year, and that was.
Did you catch that?
And I had such a great group of guys, because I was one of those guys who, I had the kids to cut their hair short, but the natural was in.
Right.
And when I was the BNC basketball coach, they cut their hair, but then that summer, and I was told I was going to be the coach, and when school started, and we had our first meeting, and all the kids were worried about, they weren't worried about me as a coach, because I had 6 of those guys that had played for the coach ahead of me. I had 6 of them at John Muir.
Mm-hmm. You won with them at John Muir, too.
Well, yeah, won with them.
Yeah.
We couldn't go any place. We had to train the kids and then send them away.
Yeah.
Wow.
They called them jamborees then.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to send them away, and they wouldn't tell us where they were going. They just had the kids ready, and they get on a bus, and they go, and then we didn't see them again until that evening. But anyway, all the kids were worried about was I going to make them cut their the naturals. I mean, their hair was, the big naturals then.
Mm-hmm.
And they was only worried about me making them cut their hair. And I said, no, that's the least of my worries now. I'm a varsity coach, and I got to try to prove myself.
Mm.
And I said, well, I'm going to let you keep your natural, but you got to keep them neat. And beards you can't have, but you can keep a mustache, but you got to keep it neat.
Mm.
So that took a lot off their mind, because they really didn't want to cut their hair.
Mm.
Right.
And I didn't let that be. I wasn't going to let that be a problem with me. So, and fortunately, God was there, because he helped me make some great decisions.
Mm.
He helped me put the right players in the game, the players who wanted to be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year at UCLA, it was the semifinals, and one game I looked down the bench, and I saw 9 guys look down the same way I was looking.
Mm-hmm.
So all I saw was the back of their head. But there was one guy that was on the edge of his seat looking at me with his finger up like, kid, like a student say, can I speak now? And I said, you're the only one looking at me, so you want to play.
Wow.
So Melvin Washington, and I said, "Come on." He went in. Not only did he go in, he blocked a shot that started a fast break that probably kept my job, got me to keep the job. But I had some kids one guy who came in, Arthur Jennings, who made 2 key free throws to put us ahead, and fortunately, that's the longest 1 second I've ever had in my life at UCLA. That horn that they had, it's up to date now, but then it looked like it took forever so that people could hear it. It had a low sound, and then it built up. And not only, I remember the player from Jeff who took the shot, and his name was Howard. He threw that ball all the way down court with his back to the basket. Now, 1 second in the game, remind you. And the guy threw the ball. He caught it with his back to the basket, came down, turned around, and shot a jump shot before I heard the buzzer. And he hit the front of the rim, and that was, whew.
Wow.
You know what that was.
Wow.
And then we had to come back and play for the championship. And, well, rest of it is history.
Wow, what a history it is. I'm sitting here looking at your career stats, Coach. You're one of, I think, just 4 coaches in history to have over 800 victories.
Yeah.
And what did you end with?
Cal High Sports had me with 805 wins and 130 some losses.
Yeah, 130 something. How many home games did you lose in like a 30-year period?
Oh.
I remember at one point you only lost like 10 home games
in
35 years.
I think we weren't supposed to lose at home.
Yeah.
And
you stressed that.
And we had some very close games. It wasn't all. I remember some very close games with Manual Arts and Westchester, and we even lost one game to Gardena. When I had Jeep, I think that was his name.
Mm-hmm.
He had an outstanding game against us at home, but we didn't lose very many. I mean, that was something that we just didn't do.
16 city championships.
Yeah, well, we won 16, but we were in a lot more. We just didn't win.
And I'm looking at 28 league titles.
Yeah, that's about right.
I remember you putting up those banners. Boy, that was always something. When I first went to that school, there was only one banner.
Well, you came early.
And now that gym, people walked in that gym and saw those banners, and it was like they lost the minute they looked up and saw all those flags.
Yeah, I was at View Park Prep one year, and my son was playing. I was helping out. Those kids walked in there and started to play, and it's like, I don't know who these kids are. What is wrong with y'all? I got my son home. I was like, what happened to you? I thought you was different than. It was the banners. I was like, oh, okay, all right, I get it now. Now, remember my initial question was, how did you and Joe Weekly hook up?
Oh, okay. Well, that first year,
after you won the championship, yes.
Then he had he had the league run shoot and dunk.
Okay.
League over at Dinker Park.
Right.
And he invited us over there. I had never been to Dinker Park, and though it was different for me. Mm-hmm. And but that's how I first met him. He called and asked would I play in his league.
Oh, okay.
And I told him I would, and I didn't know all the players didn't play, but I said you guys who want to play, we'll play in the league, and that's how we first met.
Okay.
And then after the league was over, he had been at Manual Arts.
Oh,
He was working with Manuel Art too at that time, as he was, coach. The park director at Dinker.
right.
And he asked me after it was over with, can I get him at Crenshaw? And I said, well, I don't have any means of paying you to come over there. But, I'd ask, because, I saw how big it was. I was asking for football.
Mm.
So I said, well, I'll ask the football coach, if it's okay that you come over and that you could help him. And so he said, I don't care any way that, I can get over there. So I asked the football coach, and he said yes, that he could. He could come over. And then right after the football season, during the football season, he had expressed, he came to me, he said, you got to get me off this field. I said, what do you mean? He said, you got to get me off this field into the gym. And so that's how, we basically got hooked up.
You know what? One thing that I want to talk about, your first love was baseball, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought I was going to make my livelihood at.
Okay. I want to talk about that. I want to also let you know that on April 15th, for I think the last 3 or 4 years, Magic Johnson has been sponsoring Jackie Robinson Day. And he's been bringing the Dodgers to the Cougars' Den. And a lot of, the Dodger legends, and everybody wears 42, and then they take Crenshaw players to Dodger Stadium. They put them on the mound out there with Jackie Robinson's wife. Okay. And it's a big deal, but it's just something to see. And Willie West Pavilion filled up with Dodgers. Have you seen those pictures, Coach, online?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to send you those. It's awesome. It's an awesome sight.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing that I remember, well, Magic did do something while I was there. He came, and in fact, he gave out 4 or 5 jerseys, and I still have mine, and I've never worn it. But, he said only 10 of them were made, and he gave me the Laker one, and they gave another one of Michigan State, and then one of his high school to two of the players, one a girl and one a guy, and then Strawberry, when he was coming back and he had signed with the Dodgers, they had Vince Scully and all those guys up there, and it was a big thing, and that's what I remember about Dodgers being at Crenshaw in the gym. And I said, it was a big thing for me, Ben Scully.
Yeah.
Being there. And then, I met Dodger Blue, bleed Dodger blood.
Yeah.
And I met him up in Montana someplace. I was doing a coach's clinic up there, and he was there. And I went to a Dodger game, and that's when Dodgers had all those rookies up there that eventually came, I can't even remember their names now, but they eventually came to the Dodgers together. And he was there, and we took pictures together and stuff like that.
And you had Chris Brown, too?
I had Chris Brown, but Chris played, he played basketball, but he signed a baseball contract. And I was supposed to coach those guys, but the principal at the last moment took me from baseball and just gave it to the coach that had them. But, I would have coached Darryl in baseball, Chris, the Donnelly brothers, the Jones brothers, the team that, they took to Dodger Stadium eventually and played against Granada Hills with John Elway.
Wow. Hey, does this name ring a bell, Kevin Ollie?
How'd you feel when he won the national championship, Coach?
Oh, yeah, Kevin Ollie, it was, my thing with Kevin, I met him, Queen Anne, Queen Anne's, I think?
Queen Anne Park, yeah.
I used to play there. We used to play caroms over there.
Yeah, I met him down. Someone that told me they've got a bunch of kids down there that play and you need to go watch him, you know, because I wasn't the typical gym rat, you know. I didn't follow kids, you know, but if somebody told me you need to go see somebody, then I'd make sure I go see him. But that's where I first saw him. And, you know, a lot of people think I did a lot of recruiting, but, you know, like Steve Thompson told me, he said, Coach, I recruited Crenshaw. You know, because I didn't know anything about Steve. And
you had players that went there that couldn't deal with the conditioning, like Paul Pierce. You never saw guys play that just left.
Paul was on my roster, my phys ed roster, 6th period. And, you know, the first week of school, I really never do anything with the players, you know, because they've, you know, a lot of kids get their programs changed, and they've had one class and they had to switch and all that. So the first week, I really never do anything with them other than just keep them at bay in the gym and, you know, call a roll, and then they sit up there and just talk to each other. And I called his name for a week, but, like, still, it was just a name to me. You know, I didn't know who he was.
He didn't know who he was.
No.
And I just called, you know, and then one week, the week we were supposed to start doing something, getting lockers and start participating, he was absent. And then for 2 weeks, you know, I marked his name, called his name, and he was absent. And you know, what happened to him?
He couldn't deal with running around the school the way you had us run around 21 times.
I hadn't started that yet. He left on hearsay.
Okay.
He never participated in it.
Okay.
And then I think Tiny, who's
Ed Flournoy?
K&E Bulls.
Yeah, Ed Flournoy.
He said, "Don't you remember calling it?" I don't even remember that. Him being over here, somebody said something to me. Don't you remember calling his name? And I said, I remember calling the name, but I hadn't put no face with it because I didn't know the face. But then later on, I was told that it was saying the competition was too great. That, you know, he never tried out, so he just went on what he knew, what somebody told him. You know, so. You know, I lost a lot of kids that lived in the area, but I also gained a lot of kids who didn't live in the area. Like I said, they recruited me, and they liked our style. And in fact, Steve's mother say, "I don't know why you want to come here."
Well, you know, over the years, I was able to be down there with you guys at the Run, Shoot, and Dunk and follow, you know, the house team, Dinker and the guys. And what I remember is they were some of the best conditioned athletes I had ever seen, you know. And then that one year you guys got that, it was called the Kangaroo Jumper. I think that's when Gary Malunson was there. And the machine that you get on and
wait a minute. Yesterday, let me tell you,
we can't start jumping out the gym. I was like, oh my God,
Coach, I'm going to end on this because we're about over. We want, you know, but I got to tell you, yesterday I'm sitting up with Gary Malunson and I mean on the phone with Gary Malunson and Gary Gaspar. And Gary tells me about that drill you used to make us do where the ball was underneath the basket and you bend over and pick it up and dunk it and put it on the floor and pick it up and dunk it.
Yeah.
Gaspar did that 28 times.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
You know, I have a lot of guys that's coaching in L.A. at the various high schools. I mean, they all over the place. I didn't realize they were interested in being a coach.
Well, he's pretty good one. I got one final question, Coach, because we were arguing about it the other day. How many guys have you sent to the White House?
To where?
The White House. Football, basketball, you know, because you've got guys, you know, baseball.
Well, you know, I don't really know.
It's you know, I'm going to research that, but it's quite a few.
Well, you know, some of the guys went after you know, they left me, you know, and I didn't have contact with them.
Yeah, I mean, like Darryl Strawberry went to the White House. And all right, Coach, we're going to wrap it up, Sonny.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Willie West, thank you so much for coming on our show here.
Coach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. This is Just Sports with Sonny Wells. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Are you a diabetic? Need some energy? Need to quench your thirst? Try Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, the only energy drink named suitable for diabetics by the American Diabetic Association. And it's now available with no calories, no carbs, no sugar, and no fat, and a smooth, natural blend of energy, vitamins, and minerals. Need to quench your thirst? Try Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, the only energy drink named suitable for diabetics by the American Diabetic Association. And it's now available with no calories, no carbs, no sugar, and no fat, and a smooth, natural blend of energy, vitamins, and minerals. Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink is the healthiest, best-tasting energy drink around. For more information and online ordering with free shipping, please visit hiphopbev.com. Remember, Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, suitable for diabetics, great for